Welcome to Potentials. This is Leja, and I have Lewis with me today. And he's going to be sharing kind of how he got started in doing what he does, which is um, kind of looking at movies, right? And like animated movies, and interpreting them in a sort of esoteric way and explaining what their real true meanings are behind a lot of the Disney movies and that kind of thing. Am I correct or am I totally off here?
No, it's just movies. So at the moment, what I'm trying to accomplish is to completely cover what is known as the hero's journey. And this is, of course, a journey of being a lesser self to being a higher self. So it's transcending through obstacles, it's slaying the metaphorical or literal dragon, depending on the film. It's Pinocchio's transcendence into overcoming what's the whale, Maestro the whale, and overcoming the evil that he comes into contact with, turning into a real boy. And this is the I think I'd say all of them apart from Peter Pan that I've tried to specifically engage with and explore.
Well, you definitely put that way better than I did. Yes, that's fascinating to me. I just love how you do it. A lot of your uh, explanations and your videos are on the Gen Z channel. If you YouTube, if anyone wants to watch them, I'm sure you already have if you're watching this video. But they're just fascinating. And you've started your own YouTube channel, is that correct?
Yeah, so it's Lewis.Snookes, and I'm starting to upload all the already ones that I've done on Dave's Patreon channel. So for early access, it'll still be Dave's channel. I've got about I think just under 10. I've got about eight presentations that are split up on there. So if you're interested in film analysis, esotericism, and all that stuff, go to Dave's Patreon.
Yes, thank you. That's, I mean, every single one that I've watched so far has just been mind blowing. Just every detail that you spot and that you are able to interpret in such a way that it makes it like unfold um, in a whole different reality. I, it's just like multiple realities all existing at once. I just find it amazing. So
I think
how
that's
did
like
you?
in real life as well. How
Yes.
it's the as above, so below. Like it's the metaphor and the literal in everything, and you start to see, and that's how I got into it. I started to see the signs. When I woke up, let's say, and I see the signs in the television shows, and I see signs in even something like lifting the bed. Like I thought today, and it was really strange. So if you got your bed, imagine it's just a straight line or whatever. I always talk about balance in the presentations, and I tried to lift my bed from the left hand side, the far left, and I just couldn't do it because it's one of those lift up beds, that do that, and I couldn't do it, and so I lifted it the middle, and it was so much easier. And in my head, it just went bing balance. So not too far on the left, not too far on the right. It's the metaphorical and the mental in the physical, and it's just something little like that we find all the time.
Those little epiphanies. I love that. And it's
Hmm.
it's like center point, right? That
Exactly.
being
Yeah.
the center. That's amazing. I love it when that happens. You're just kind of walking down the street and something hits you. That I love that. So how did you like you kind of inferred that you started waking up. How long ago was this kind of thing that you started noticing when all these little signs and how did it unfold into what it is now?
So I got into, let's say, the spiritual and the esoteric um around 18, 17, something like that. But I was much more on the, let's say, darker side. So I was into Aleister Crowley, Satanism, and let's say the darker paths of life. And then I made a decision. Obviously, this is over a few years. I made the decision suddenly to, let's say, go to the light side, or however you want to phrase it. And then I got into Dave's work, I got into Brandon's work, and a few others, and I started to self-reflect, and that led me on the journey to spirituality, which led me on the journey to noticing the little signs that you see. What was the question again? Sorry.
Oh, I know. Well, that's basically you're answering
Oh, awesome.
it. Yeah, how did it unfold into what it is now, I guess. And that's sort of, what
Oh yeah.
happened.
So I visited The Wizard of Oz. So I was just watching the film and not to analyze, because I obviously didn't analyze. That was my first movie. And I was watching it and I just found myself pausing it, and I always do this. I'll do this when I'm out and about. If I have a thought, I've got to go, hang on, and I'll write a note about it so I can go back to it later. And I just noticed I kept pausing the film and pausing the film and pausing the film and writing all these notes. And at the end, I had a decent chunk, and so I thought, why don't I give this Dave and the Patreon, because I do articles as well. I'll do the Substack. I think I've done 3 or 4 of them. So I thought I'd introduce it and put it into one of them. And then I just had the idea to put it into a visual presentation with pictures and images, and explain. So, because I noticed when I was reading what I'd wrote, it was very hard to decipher what part of the story I was at. And I think it's much easier for everyone just to have a visual sign or literal picture where it shows a character, or it shows an event, or like someone doing that or that, or you know what I mean, that,
Right.
as opposed to just explaining it. And then yeah, that's how I got into it.
Wow. That's just I love the transformation of how it all kind of came to be. So, does this happen when you're just watching movies, or is it like something that comes to you out of the blue?
So it does now, because I'm, let's say, aware of the subtle the subtle details in films, and whether they're intended by the film director, whether they're intended by the story writer, I don't think is relevant for me, because I think it's not what you look at, it's what you see. And in films, there's so much to see and so much to decipher. And I was watching, when I did my first one, I wanted to look at how other people looked at film and how other people analyzed it. So I was looking, and I just found it quite lacking. Like, even, I'm sure everyone knows Jordan Peterson. He spoke about Pinocchio. He spoke about I think it's Harry Potter, and then maybe one other. And I just found that it didn't fulfill the storyline. So he'd give like a little example, but it didn't explain and encompass the whole film. Whereas my presentations, I attempt to encompass every scene as a part of the whole. So it's like a circle, and each part is just like a little segment, a little piece of the pie, as Dave says, of the whole film, until it obviously comes full circle.
Yes, exactly. That's like it's just like everything, really. Like
Hmm.
even physics, metaphysics, quantum physics, what we're learning now is coming full circle. We only had little pieces of the puzzle, and now all the puzzle pieces are coming together and connecting and fitting. And it seems like it's not just happening with one genre of things or one type of thing. It's happening with everything, with music, with art, with film,
Hmm.
life.
We're seeing it all intertwine. We're seeing the signature of, reality imprinted on every single thing. It's got a little, you know, R on it, on everything that you see. And once you start seeing this metaphorical letter R, you start seeing it everywhere, and life becomes a little bit more brighter, I think.
Yeah, yeah. You start seeing the dimensions sort of bleeding into each other. And
Hmm.
so you have a more like a clearer picture because it to me it feels like 3D is kind of blurry, you know. And so
Hmm.
whenever the other dimensions start to bleed in, everything gets a little bit clearer and clearer in the mirror. Start seeing all the little details bleeding through,
Hmm.
sort of, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. It's the metaphorical smoke and mirrors kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
How
exactly.
think once things come clearer, you can let's
Right.
say follow your path better or follow whatever you want.
Like, I feel like we're trying to clear the smoke right now. I feel like that's what's sort of what
Hmm.
we're doing in this realm. That's sort
And,
of our
and coming
mission.
together as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Once
coming
we've
together.
once we've cleared our little patch of smoke, we come together and we say, okay, this is what we know. It's like in the Matrix. They say, all we know is this. This is what we know, and this is what we can do with what we know.
Right, right. And we're sort of just finding each other in the smoke, in the mist. Like we're sort of reaching out towards each other and coming together and finding each other. Like, oh, I found you. And now we can try together to clear the mist. So it's yeah, I love that analogy. It's really beautiful. So, where would you like to go from here with what would you like to see happen in the world based on what you're learning and what you're finding out?
That's a good question. Um, I think it's going to be. I know it's going to be a slow process. I'm not hoping for a utopia. I think that's um dangerous waters because we've got um if you know about the cycles of life. So we have I can't think what they're called. I think it's Indian. So we've got the golden cycle, the silver cycle, the
The Kali
iron and bronze. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
right?
And so maybe this is just a natural cycle of life, and we should accept where we are and just try and make it a little bit brighter. Where I'd like to go from here, I think I think self-reflection would help immensely, immensely, because I see it. I think you see it everywhere as a person who let's say spiritually awake or aware. You see it in the little things. You see it in people driving. You see it in people in the supermarket. You see it in your job. You just see everyone's self-interest in them and themselves. And when you become self-reflective, you want to better yourselves, but you also want to better yourselves for other people. So you can help the relationships, the family, friends, and even the people that serve you coffee. And it just makes everyone's day a little bit brighter when you're self-reflective enough to put yourself in a position where you're not going to make anyone else's day shittier. And I think that's all what we could do. Make the world a bit better.
Yeah, that's that's really beautiful. Sometimes you do it without even knowing it too. When you're
Mm,
kind of good with yourself, you kind of just have this, I don't know when to use the word aura, but it sounds too whatever, but you know what I mean? Like you have this kind of bubble around you that's kind of bright or happy or at peace maybe. And
hmm
so you kind of just naturally spread it around without even realizing that you're doing it. When you just go out in the world and, you know,
hmm
bump into people.
Yeah, you
It's
can. I think everyone's got a presence, haven't they?
yeah,
And you can see if someone's naughty or nice, pretty much. N- maybe not ethically, like some people, and I can't. People see auras and stuff. I can't see
I,
auras,
I
but you
can't
can sort
either.
of tell body language, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, and I think you can feel it, even if you can't see somebody's aura, which I'm not gifted with that yet, but you can sense, you can feel someone's uh
Hmm
sense, and also by the way they look, basically, their the expression on their face, their eyes. And I kind of always felt like that's there. They asked a question. There was a poll that they took, like, what's the first thing that you notice about another person? And um, the most common thing that everybody said was gender, which I thought was weird, whether they were male or female. To me, I always notice their eyes. Like that's the first thing I notice about a human, because I feel like that's where they hold everything. All their everything's just in their eyes. So
hmm Was that like face to face meeting or like seeing someone across the street?
that's a good question. I'm not sure if they even gave that option. I think it was just like I'm gonna
I
assume
think they're
because
two
if
different
they're right in front
interactions,
of
though,
you,
aren't they?
yeah, yeah, they
Yeah.
definitely.
If you meet someone face to face, it's a
Right,
different environment than if you let's say notice someone from across the street walking.
right, right. True, that's true. Yeah, I just assumed they met face to face, but yeah, that's a good point. Looking at someone from across the street, I don't know. I guess I look at more like how they're walking, how they're carrying themselves, maybe,
Hmm.
like the
Yeah.
essence of who they are. Kind of. But yeah, so what besides what you think about what could happen in the world, what do you think about what's happening right now?
In relation to just everything in general.
Yes.
Um, I feel like the veil is slowly lifting. I think COVID sort of they shot themselves in the foot with COVID a little bit because the amount of people that sort of woke up or were more aware that the government wasn't in alignment with what they wanted is astounding. And that only leads to bigger things. Like I'm sure you and all your viewers, you either start from spirituality and go into conspiracy theory, or you start from conspiracy theory and go into spirituality. And it's like the is it the caduceus? Like they're intertwined and wrapped up in one. And I think once people, let's say, open their minds to the conspiracy or even the spirituality, it's like that they're like a trampoline for each, and it
Mm,
just spirals upwards because once you find out one thing, it's like a set of dominoes. It you know it, the littlest thing, and COVID was a big thing.
mm,
So I think it's good. It's going to come slow because people are still wanting to remain ignorant. There's still so many people in Plato's cave and people that just like watching TV and doing nothing with their life, and then you have the whole evil side, which is a force unto itself. But yeah, I think it's looking good. It's looking good. I'm hopeful.
mm. Right. I feel like it's if it's like a sine wave in a way, where we're on the part of the wave that's going upward, you know,
Hmm.
then there's nowhere to go but up. That's sort of the way I'm looking at it. And I'm glad I'm on the upward part of the sine wave. It's where I decided to be here for that.
Hmm.
But I'm trying to push it, I think. I'm trying to push it. I want things to happen faster. I'm patient. So I'm trying to get it happen faster, if that's possible.
That's all we can do, right? Just do our parts.
Right.
I don't think there's any point proselytizing or however you say it
Yeah.
anymore. I tried that. I think we all have. You learn these things and you speak to your family and they either think you're crazy or they don't understand because you've got certain pieces of information they don't. And that's what we need to remember. If you've just woken up or if you're, let's say, you aware of the conspiracies, be aware that they aren't aware of all this other information that makes sense. Like if you know about Pizzagate and you say to a random person, "Oh, the elites, the the people in government, they're eating babies and all that," they go, "What the fuck are you on about? Like you're crazy."
Yes.
And I think we need to be aware that other people aren't there yet, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Everyone, it's it's like anything. It's like getting a tattoo, right? Some people's skin is sensitive, some people's skin isn't sensitive, some people have high threshold, some people have low, and everyone experiences the tattoo or life awakening or whatever differently. And so we should respect everyone's strength or weakness.
Right. And they're all probably here for different reasons. So it's all a part of that, um, the culmination of what's happening. And I, I do get frustrated, but it's like you're right. Some people aren't ready, and it doesn't have to be even about the conspiracy stuff. Like I thought people would, when they start finding things out, that they would get a lot more upset about it. Like because we get excited when that's why we end up telling people, oh, I just found this out. and you want to share it with someone, and you don't have anybody else that, you know, doesn't think you're crazy to say it to. It gets very frustrating. But on the other hand, there's, you know, there's the disclosure stuff. You know, like I want people to know about the technology. I want people to know that there's hope. You know, that there's we can we can be healthy. We can fly around in hover cars. You know, it's not that far off. You know, and maybe we can happen sooner. You know, I don't know. It's just that kind of thing. I just want to put it. I want to put it out there. But but you're right. There's only so much you can do. You can't make everybody come to where you are at. You know, you can't force anybody to be where you are. You have
I
to
mean, you
allow
shouldn't
it.
want to either.
Yeah, yeah. You shouldn't want to. Yeah. I
Like,
mean, if you
my
think
way
about
isn't
it,
the right way, and someone else's isn't the wrong way. It's just
right,
a way.
right, exactly. And I mean, it
Sometimes
doesn't.
it's just about accepting what is. Just
Yeah,
that is what it is. And I know we say this a lot. It's a common thing. You just go, ah, is what it is. But you know, if you reflect on that sentence and you go, it is what it is. So it is what it is. It is a thing. That's its nature. Accept it. And once,
you.
you know, when you do that, your life comes so much better because you don't see all these, you know, everything happen in the world. You don't go, ah, why is this? And why can't this? And, you know, you start getting frustrated.
Yeah,
Evil just becomes what it is. And if you're a good person, you'll want to stop it, but it's like accept it for what it is and do what you can to try and alter it because that's who you are and that's what you're here to do.
you are so right. And you picked the saying that I say the most. It's so funny. Um, it is what it is, and it is what it isn't sometimes too. So
Mhm.
there's that.
And if it is what it isn't, or isn't what it is, sorry, we need to be careful of trying to make it so and
Yeah,
just allow it to be. So, you know, we say some things aren't meant for you. Hmm, maybe, but maybe you're trying too hard, or maybe it wouldn't really make you happy. And so that's why it keeps eluding you.
right. Yeah, and sometimes, like depending on how you look at things, feel like we're just. I feel personally, this is just my thing, but I feel like we're in these avatar bodies, but really, like our higher selves are playing this game, you know, in this realm, in this like simulation or whatever.
Hmm.
And so we're like our higher selves kind of knows what we should be steering away from or what we need to do. So when the higher self gets to a certain point where it says, no, you're not going that way, but we're like, but I wanted to go that way. You know, we just have to realize that it's not always the way, you know, we can't see what we're doing because we're trapped in these little avatar bodies with limited vision,
Hmm.
limited um, scope. So
I
just
think
my.
it's important to stop. Sometimes, you know, you get to a stage in life where all you do, especially in the beginning stages, is you go, why? And you're always asking why. And, you know, it can be very dangerous to always ask why. You know, it's obviously it's got its positive and negatives, but when you're always asking why, you're always trying to make something fit into something. Like, you know, the little kids things when you've got the circle, and you got the triangle, and you got the square. Well, if you're trying to put a triangle into a square, and let's say you're doing it like that, and you're going, why won't it fit in? Why won't it fit in?
Yeah,
If it won't fit in, it won't fit in. Either you've
right,
got to look at it a different way, or just let it go.
exactly. That's a very good point. I like that. Yeah, the whole release thing. See, yeah, that's very important to be able
And
to
very
release.
hard as well.
Yes, very, very true.
And so
But
when you do it often enough, it comes easier like anything. Practice, practice, practice.
right,
You know, put the cookie down, stop eating Stop eating that crap for a day or for one meal once a week. Stop, smoking one extra cigarette. And once you say no and you limit yourself and you discipline yourself, then it becomes a lot easier to say no. It becomes a lot easier to let go and go without, because the feeling that you think you need to feel by having that thing, by having that experience, you can still have that experience by having something else or by not having it. It's it's dangerous to rely on, the external to feed the internal.
That's so true. Yeah, it's the little things, like starting with the little, even the little things, just release that one little thing, and then maybe you could start building up to the other things that are pretty big that you let go of.
Mhm. It doesn't have to be one, you don't have to leave your partner. You don't have to move across the world and leave your job or whatever. It's just something little. If obviously if that's what you want to do, if you know something's bad for you and it's really bad for you, maybe you can't stop it right away. Maybe you need to try releasing other things, stop discipline yourself again. That's all I can say.
That's great. I love it. Wow. Well, you've got like a lot of wisdom. I love that. It's just, did you, how did you accumulate this wisdom? Did it just, was it something you always had and you just tapped into it?
Some of it, yeah. Others um I had to mess up and I had to learn. For I think most of my knowledge is firsthand. And so, take everything that I say with a grain of salt, because this is just all we can talk about is our experience.
Yeah.
Um, I don't really talk about things that I haven't experienced, because I haven't experienced it. It's a theory. It's not something that I can relate to and offer you guidance about. It's like I won't tell anyone how to be a woman because I'm not a woman. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of the, let's say, as I said, I was into dark psychology, I was into the dark side of life. And that was my sort of introduction. Like I grew up, I wasn't not in a bad environment. But I grew up, let's say, evil person, nasty person. And then I had to make the decision to come from hell, where I was happy-ish and a king in hell, not the king, but a king in hell, and decide to come and transcend through to heaven. And it was hard because a lot of the dark is alluring, but it's also good. Discipline is beyond the dark. Saying no to people is, a part of the dark. And having respect for yourself is, all these different things that we can learn from both polar opposites. And then again, creating balance, like I always drone on about in the presentations, just balance. And I think that's how I found it. But I do feel like an old soul, so I've probably been here a few times. Got a head start,
Maybe you were a woman in a you
maybe.
just don't remember. But yeah, so balance. And did you find it, do you meditate? Did you find that meditation?
I tried to meditate, but oh, what did you say at the end there? Sorry, cut off.
No, I was just wondering how did you start? You tried to meditate.
Oh yeah, I tried to meditate. I can't sit and meditate. I've
Yeah,
done I've done breath work. I can't. Shayna Marie, go look her up if you like breath work. That it's brilliant. It's so relaxing. But I don't do it every day. I've tried to, but it's not for me. I do enjoy it. Um, my meditation is sort of writing. I've got a few things that I'm writing, because when you're writing, all you can focus on is the page in front of you, the words that are there, and what you want to say.
you're in
And
the
that's
moment.
exactly it. Meditation is just, it doesn't have to be sitting down, doing nothing and trying not to think, which is, oxymoronic. That's why it's so difficult. But yeah,
Yes,
writing for me is my creative process.
that's really creating, I feel, is meditating. I think they're
Hmm.
both the same thing. And
What
I
do
mean,
you
there's
think meditating is? If you were to give it a label or a definition.
I just think it's being in the moment, kind of completely, totally in
Mhm.
the moment. And
Flow.
yeah, not thinking of the past or the future, just being right here, right now, not
Mhm.
thinking anything else but what you're doing. Which is why creating is meditating, because you're just thinking of what you're doing and you're not trying to, you may be drawing from your past to write about something. You may be thinking about something in the future that hasn't happened yet that you're writing about, but it's still you're in the moment writing.
It's through
So
the lens of now, isn't it?
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Great way to put it. I feel like all creating is like that. Even writing a song, like yesterday, I wrote a song out of nowhere. Just I walked over to my keyboard and I just started playing these chords, and I was like, oh, wow, I like these. And then the first line of the song popped into my head. I'm not adverse to writing a verse. I just thought, I'm not adverse to writing a verse. And then all of a sudden the rest of the song came out. It's just kind of like fishing, it's like you're
Hmm.
pulling you're pulling the fish out of the water, right? And once it breaks the surface, it's so much easier to reel it in. So it's kind of like what happens with writing a song, and probably writing what you do too, is once you get that thought out of the water, out of the ethers or wherever it's coming from. It all comes at once, sort of, sometimes, not always, but
Yeah. It's paradoxical as well because
yeah.
you can't force it, you can't tug, and I've tried the whole discipline writing, or and if anyone's creative, if anyone draws, if anyone dances or does anything, if you try too hard and you sit there and you force yourself and you go, right, I'm gonna write a page, read it back, look at the drawings, and I guarantee you that you won't like it because it's too regimented, it's like where you are as opposed to where you've been and where you're going. And I think it's the cycle, isn't it? It's, as you said, it's the transference. Even though you're in the now, you have to use what you've learned in the past, and you have to think about the future because what you're saying. So if you say, let's say, I don't know, you're writing about why people are bad, you're writing about and how to solve it. You're writing about what they've done that is bad, what they're doing is bad, and how to solve it in the future. And so you constantly transcend, leapfrog between the 3 points of time.
Right, it's kind of like time traveling, right? When you're writing, you're
Hmm.
really traveling through time.
Hmm. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you never exist. Even when you read a book, you never exist in one state because you'll read something, and then a little old part of you will come up, and it'll judge that, and the current you will judge that, and then that will decide whether you want to in the future look more into that based on the now and based on they're all the same thing. They're all happening at the same time, isn't they?
It's, it's so interesting because it's like we really are multi-dimensional beings, because part of you is the physical part of you is sitting there reading the book, and taking the time to read the book. But then there's the part of you that's immersed in the book, actually living the part of what's going on in the book. So it's really, I like the way we live these parallel lives with our
Hmm.
creations. We're existing in the moment, but at the same time we're inside of something, which is inside of something else, which is inside of something else.
Yeah, well, I sent you that article that I wrote as well on Dave's Substack, the
Yeah,
multidimensionality of consciousness, and even
yes.
something as I describe is driving a car. You know, there's so many different realities going on there, not only with other people, but with yourself as well. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yes, I loved that, by the way.
Thank you.
I should put the link to that in the description here too, because I think people would enjoy that and
Thank you.
get a better idea of what you do. So, yeah, if anybody wants to check out Lewis's stuff, I'm going to put the links in the description. Um, and also, you know, I'm going to assume most of the people that are watching this are fans of Dave, so you probably already know who Lewis is, but if you don't, it's gonna it's gonna blow your mind. Really. It's amazing. So I just want to thank you for time to do this.
Well,
Um,
it's my pleasure. I
I
enjoyed it. I was nervous, but it's one of them
really
demons, like I write. It's one of them demons I got to slay. It's the what's it called? The troll in the women's bathroom in Harry Potter. It's one of them things, isn't it? It's a little thing I've let go of.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I
makes it
feel
easier.
you. I'm just as nervous as you are, trust me. If not more sometimes. I just try not to let on, but yeah, I do really appreciate you doing this because I know that it's not easy being a creative person. Uh, People tend to misunderstand us sometimes
Yeah,
and look at us differently. Uh,
we can do
but
that to ourselves as well, based on their feeling about us. We can try and because they'll say, "What do you do?" or "What's this work?" and you'll have to. You want to give them like a real answer, like I can't think of an example, but you want to give them a real answer. Then you've got to narrow it into this little box so they can understand it because they aren't from your world. And so you say, "Oh, it's just a piece that I'm writing, or it's just
yeah,
something simple."
right, right.
And
You do
that's
have to
that.
kind of
Yeah,
make it nuts and bolts for people.
yeah,
Yeah, but it's when it's kind of etheric or esoteric, how do you put it into words? It's more of a feel, right?
yeah. It's because that leads to a discussion as well. If they
Right.
don't understand, if you don't give a good enough analysis based on if you don't paint it in black and white, and they see it, you've accidentally painted it grey to them, they're gonna go, well, why is that dark a bit of grey next to that light a bit of grey? And but that's also a good thing as well if they don't understand, and if they're genuinely interested, it means you have a chance to, open someone's mind. Just something little like explaining your piece of work, like why his hand was here on the painting, like that can change people's lives, just the little things, because they might think about that all day, and then they'll speak to someone else, and goes from there, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. And I was just thinking about this yesterday, and I think I said this in another podcast, but it's okay. I've always found it amazing how people don't know how a remote control works, but they use it every day, and they don't really think of it as magic anymore. But if you tried to explain to them like how it actually works, or if somebody who never saw how a remote control or saw a remote control saw it actually turn something on by just pressing this button, they would be amazed. They would think it's magic, you know.
With
Same thing
Yeah,
with the phones that we use every day, and like the phone rings and you just press this button and it answers. Like, how does that work, right?
it's like older family members as well.
Yeah,
you know how do I work this phone? How do I work this telly? They're confused by it because it's new to them, and it's not from their world, isn't it?
right,
It's the same.
right.
It's the same as being creative. You're you're the um you're the old person, and you've got to explain. No, you're the young person. Sorry, and you've got to
Yeah,
explain to all the old people how it works.
exactly. That's what it feels like when you're
Hmm.
trying to explain what you do. It's
Yeah,
exactly what it feels like.
especially if you don't do it for a job as well. They're like,
Yeah.
well, why are you doing it? You know?
Yes. Are
Yeah.
you making any money at it? No, but
Oh, that's the usual question, isn't it? Money, something to do with money. Yeah.
it always has to do with it. And then when you try to explain energy and how that works, like, well, it's not about the money, it's about the energy. And they're like, what? And they don't just, no,
Yeah.
you can't explain it.
You usually get short answers then, don't you?
Yeah,
That's usually the conversation nipped in the bud when you bring up the word energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I just don't do that anymore. But someday it'll all make sense, you know.
It's not necessarily a bad thing though. It's like, how do we speak? How do we speak to children? That they're at where they're at, right? They're 4 years old, 6 years old, and we speak to them differently because we understand that their consciousness, their awareness, their self-reflection, their personality is completely different to us where we are now. And it's weird that we can do that with, and we can have compassion for children as well. And it's weird
Right.
that we can't do that with people that are our age or older.
Right.
Some people don't ever grow up. That they age, but they don't grow up. They don't learn the lessons. They don't, take the risks. They don't um develop themselves and try to evolve and to become a better person, just to become a better person, just to become happy. Some people just like and enjoy the whole Joker thing. They want to see the world burn um or whatever it is. And again, we come full circle back to it is what it is, and they are who they are. And so we should just speak to people, even if you've got a lower base, like turn complex stuff into basic stuff for them to understand it. That's fine. Just treat people with respect. That's all you can do, right? And if they don't respect you, then cut ties. It's quite easy.
Right. Right. It actually, I think a lot of times they just fall off. The people who aren't getting it or who just don't resonate with you in some way, they
Hmm.
just sort of fall away. You don't even really have to try to cut ties with certain people. They just, if they're not really already close to you or tethered to you in some way,
Oh,
it's just
oh,
easier to
sorry.
let.
I didn't mean completely cut ties. I meant cut ties as in cut that string of your relationship off. So,
Right.
I've got friends of mine that have no idea what I'm talking about. That's fine.
Right.
I talk to
But
them
they're
about
still your
other
friend.
things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
Yeah.
don't have to speak about consciousness and, reality and everything else and evolving and, that's fine. You just
Right.
be who you are and them for they accept them for who they are. If they aren't interested in your work, they are not interested in your work.
Right. 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 I see what you mean. Right. I was thinking more of the like the Facebook people or the online people, that follow you and then
Yeah.
suddenly stop following you. If that happens, it happens,
It can be a
You-
blessing though, can't it?
right. And then you get a whole new group of people that start following you because they like what your subject matter is. So
Like
maybe
this right now, right?
exactly. And
Hmm.
and it sort of pulls you into a new uh energy of people that you can feed off of each other's energy in a good way. So
Hmm.
works out the way it's meant to. So, well, anyway, I would just like to again thank you for coming on, and we'll just wrap it up right here, and uh, hopefully we can have a good discussion at some point. Um, if you ever feel like you want to talk about anything, feel free to come on because I really like the exchange that we have. I feel like you have a lot to say, whether you realize it
I,
or not.
I I have a lot more to write. I'm not very good at speaking. That's why
Um,
I write, and my presentations are all written down beforehand and then I'll present them. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. We had a
I
nice
really
nice exchange today.
I really like what you say. I feel like you can actually speak it too. Like you realize that. But yeah, you can do a lot more than what you even know, what you realize. You know, there's a lot of potential. So, anyway, thank you again, and we'll be talking again soon.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Ciao for now.